morning, everybody. Today we have with us Mr. Rajendra Mehta, Group CHRO of Suzlon Group. We welcome you on board, sir, for another new and exciting episode of HR Voices. I'd like to tell the audience we'll be talking about the recent or the new or the upcoming appraisal scenario for the year 23-24. We'll be discussing few aspects of it. And those of you who have some questions, once you view this video and once you have all the relevant information that we'll be discussing, probably you can tag Rajendra sir and ask all your queries or anything that you would want him to address to. Just a small intro of what we're going to discuss. I feel that just as the four seasons fall, the winter, the spring, the summer, and here comes another season, which is called the appraisal season for employees, the time of the year when employees in the world over are sitting with managers for an annual performance review, whether they like it or not. Admittedly, the potential benefits of these meetings are subject to heated debates as well. And on the other hand, we also have plenty of experts that still argue that the benefits of performance appraisals, when done, are effective. Rajendra sir, I would like to open the forum to you, the discussion wherein we can begin. My first question I throw on to you is, Indian companies are expected to give a rise of 10% in 23, which is way more than other countries, as a report by the advisory firm Willis Tower Watson Salary Budget Planning. What's your view on the same?
So first of all, Sugan, thank you for having me. And this is an exciting time for employees to look forward to in terms of getting rewards of whatever contributions that they have made to the organizations. But I want to just give clarity with respect to when we talk about our PMS system. There are broadly three elements to that PMS. One is that there is a goal setting, there's an input of goal setting, then there is a continuous reviews, and then last leg is around on the rewards linkages. When all the areas are fully linked up with each other, the outcome is largely should be very objective and mutually benefiting as well. Now, as much as you're talking about this year's appraisals, where India median would remain at about 10% versus the global medians. I want to again, clarify that whenever we talk about 10%, that 10% is also a reflex of the kind of, the inflation that the countries are going through. Now, if India is on an inflation of say 7% or 8%, there's a 2% kicker that one gets with respect to the allocable kitty or potential opportunity of reward distribution at 10%. Whenever the countries are at a if inflation of say 6%, their averages would revolve around 8%. So there is a cost of living and there's a kicker on that for employees who have contributed higher with respect to their contribution to the organization. They tend to get more. So I would leave the judgment to the audience to say what is the India likely to pay versus the international geographies, because each one is governed by their own local inflation levels. I am hoping that there will be some geographies who are getting higher percentage paid than India, but there are multiple input data to that. Okay. The overall growth in the economy, etc., sectorally how each sector has grown. So there would be a lot of variable in this discussion. So a very pointed questions. I'm happy to take from the audience at any point in time. Thank you, Zubair.
Sir, this year also began, you would be agreeing to the fact that we began this year with the showers of layoff from biggies to startups, and the high percentage, which is quoted is more than 9.5% hike that India gave to its employees last year. How does the high percentage justify the current layoff scenario wherein people don't even know if they'll be called to office next year or not? On the other hand, there is an increase of 9.5% of hike as compared to last year. So what's your take on this thing?
So, you're saying that the last year increment percentages were 9.5,
It is
and
this
how
year,
do
it is
you?
9.5% more than last year.
Okay, okay, that's fine. So, I think the way that the organizations operate and the economies operate, when there is a lot of opportunity of growth.
Right.
Now, there was through the COVID phase, there was demand which was underlying, and I think there was opportunities of pent-up demands, and then we suddenly grew, economy grew. And so there are estimations with respect to how the industry would take shape over, next couple of years.
Mhm.
And then organizations starts to invest, whether it's on the capacities, infrastructure capacities or people capacities, they start to invest. Sometimes those, the judgments can go wrong, but that's the reason why largely the decisions around layoff happens, because there is an aggressive expectation of how the economies would behave, and therefore, how would the hirings take place.
Okay.
But if certain bets don't go right and go wrong, then these situations of layoff. And I think that's where organizations need to be a little more realistic in terms of how moderately they need to hire for their growth journey. I think these discussions or these decisions have to be very sensibly taken, because then comes these times when I think everybody is aggrieved with respect to they have been laid off, whatever. So my sense is it's a leadership fault.
Okay. So, recently many quarter reports have also come, as you would have seen of the last quarter. But during the time of increments, employees always face the issue, while in the reports it claims that the company has gained profit. But during the time of appraisals, if they're not met the employees' expectation, then the basic answer or the sole answer that they give to their employees is that, we have not been doing fairly well, and this is what we can offer at present, but we would expect your loyalty so that we can help you grow better into future within this company itself. So, what's the cause of the same? While companies are openly showcasing their profits, but then they're not equally distributing in times of appraisals. So how does that math works?
So that math is very simple. That math is that, my current wage cost as a ratio of a revenue or ratio of some other element
Mhm.
is maintained at a certain level, and I think one tries to improvise on that. So if there was a 7 or 8% wage cost versus the revenue, organizations will tend to say that can I shave off half a percent more from the current payout percentage? So can I try and reach out to a level which is 6.5%? But these are the mathematics. When you deprive high potential employees from getting their due rewards, the loss eventually will be of the organization, because at some stage the loyalties will not remain with the organization. So I think, in my mind, performance management system, including the rewards that it gives to employees, has to be hugely transparent and hugely fair. The moment there is a slippage on these fairness quotient, it's the organization eventually which tends to get the impact of this. While in the immediate years you may not see the impact, but on a longer term,
Mhm.
unfair organization practices doesn't lead to good quality of people coming on board. And I think there's some way that the organization tends to do so. My sense is that organizations have to have a very fair play with respect to what is the increment, what are the right dues that individuals should have, and what is that right value that I should keep for rainy day when I am seeing that the markets are getting a little choked and I'm not able to reward employees at
Mhm.
that point in time. So create some provisions so that there is a equal distribution of rewards across all years, and the high performance individuals and high potential individuals, they continue to get their dues fairly. So I think that is one area that I think organizations have to maintain its fairness and transparency there.
Fair enough. That way, the employees will also understand if are being offered a certain percentage of hike. The sole reason will be, of course, their performance metrics will be the basic and the sole cause of the increment that they're getting. I really want you to, sir, explain the concept that, appraisals are not just about the yearly increments. It actually also means how well you have performed in the past year and what extra outcome has an employee also given to the organization apart from what was already there in the KRAs. So when it comes to an expectation of appraisal, employees also need to understand on what basis, employers, keeping, of course, keeping in mind the performance metrics, but on what basis do they finalize that an X component needs to be given, or an X person needs to be given an increment of this percentage in the present year, because in the past year XYZ things have been done because of him or her, of course.
Correct. So my view here is that appraisal is a continuous activity through the year. I also believe that the way employee needs to get engaged with the organization has to be on two counts. The first count is that the employee is engaged with the organization through the environment that it creates. The other element of engagement is that the employee who delivers on X role, his engagement with that role is increased. Now, in creating the engagement with the role, what is important is that you need to build sharpened objectives. Organization needs to create very sharp objectives and set up the milestones of delivery, which is very clear, and there's no ambiguity in that. If that is done right, your subsequent steps will be equally right. So, when you come to the review mechanism, at least manager is in a position to guide the employee with respect to what went wrong, what could have been done right, what are the areas that one should really take care so that the similar mistakes doesn't happen in future. So you bring sharpness around the ability of an employee to deliver more. That's what the expectation employee has from the manager, because the wisdom that a manager can give, the wisdom that manager can share with the employee in terms of sharpening his outlook and outcomes, that's the responsibility that the manager has. But eventually what ends up happening is that there are very fuzzy goals that get set. There are very transactional led goals that get set, and there are a lot of ambiguities that gets built up in the way roles get aligned to an individual, and because of which there is so much of chaos in terms of what to give feedback on. And I think the employee and manager relationships also is sometimes not so thick, so that the manager uh, has the opportunity of giving a very fair and open feedback. So there is a fear even among the managers that if I say this to the guy or employee, there's a likelihood that the person will not like it or
But
whatever,
then how
and
can
therefore
how
the
can employers engage employees in a very healthy sort of a conversation wherein
yeah.
we take
So
feedbacks in a very
so
positive manner?
so auditing the kind of goal sheets that managers give to employees, their team members, that area of work has to be very scientific and very rigorous. And that is where I think we start to falter, that the goals don't get aligned right. They're very hazy goals, and because of which the subsequent process also become hazy and probably not clear, and therefore a lot of issues around the transparency comes up. So that's what my view is, that starting point itself is wrong, and therefore that kind of chaos happens within the organizations.
And how important do you feel is to have a very healthy conversation between an employer and employer when it comes to appraisal talks? Because these are very sensitive issues. You might lose on to a talent as well if the feedback
Correct.
is not conversed in a suitable manner. So, what's your take
Correct.
on the same? How should an ideal conversation be like?
So my view would be that as managers we all have the responsibility of creating relationships with our team members, so that the conversation becomes far freer than with the hesitation. So that's the first responsibility that we all have. There are multiple models in which one that you we as managers also need to understand how to praise our employees, and being able to give them motivations that on certain areas that they're doing good and certain areas where the development has to happen. That area is again focused. So there is that whole positive strokes, then development strokes, and then again positive strokes. The conversations need to be very clearly focused on this kind of a structure, and it needs to be very much focused on how was last month or a last quarter, what's the employees feel about that, what did go right, what did go wrong, that needs to get discussed. How is the next quarter looking like, and how would employers ensure that the learnings of the last quarter, last month, is implemented in the subsequent quarter, subsequent month, so that this conversation makes outcomes very sharpened, and it helps to for the employee to deliver better results. So the conversation needs to be very objective.
So, when it comes to, each year appraisal gets some different aspects of performance metrics. If we talk about 23-24, wherein the year has begun with layoffs, and it is still continuing, and recession is also seen to have hit the job market. What, in your view, is the appraisal for 23-24 that looks like, and what is an average percentage of hike that an employee should expect, ideally?
Subsequent year.
Yeah, 23-24.
So I think it's too early to really get into these kinds of discussions, because
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the markets would really behave, because volatility still remains high. We are not sure which economy would do what, and the world remains interconnected to a large extent. So even if India is on a high, growth trajectory, because of certain geographies, we might get some dent. So I don't know what the year would look like at the end of the fiscal 23-24. We'll have to wait. I think couple of quarters, maybe 1 quarter, 2 quarter. Probably H1 will decide the H2 scenario. And I think we should wait for that rather than just jump on to assessing what would it look like.
But when it
Because
comes,
organization, the countries are still in the uncertainty and volatility which is currently existing. Countries are going through that phase even now.
so do you think there'll be a difference between the appraisals of existing employees and when you go into a new job, the hikes in the present, salaries? So do you think there'll be a very difference in both these aspects?
So you'll have to just repeat your question one more time.
I mean to ask, if I am an existing employee of an organization and if I'm joining a new organization, let's say two different employees, so do you think that I will expect an appraisal on my present salary, but when I go to another organization, I will expect a raise on my present CTC. So do you think both these aspects will be heavily impacted considering we're beginning a year with layoffs and recessions?
Yeah, so I think these are unfortunately these are all commoditized games, because somebody who's starting off on a lower salary tends to get impacted, because the organizations tend to give salary hikes on the existing salaries.
Hmm.
Majority of the cases are like that.
Right.
But my view is that one should focus on learning journey more, and over a period of say 2 to 3 years, the catch up happens. So one should not get dejected with respect to the salary difference as you're starting the roles, but learnings that you get, that will nobody can take away that from you, and therefore I think it's important to focus on content rather than the salaries, etc. So over a period of time, I think employees would tend to gain benefit out of that. So take a bet on the right matrices. That's important.
So, your last word of advice for employees hearing out to you, anything that you would like to convey to them as an employer?
So I would say that keep doing your best. Don't remain in the comfort zone, because you never know. Our comfort somebody else takes advantage of, and then probably gains strength. So it's a journey that we all are there to succeed in. And put your best foot forward. Understand the finer nuances of what's impacting, and what's impacting your organization, and how you can still steer the organization and functions through these turbulent times. And my sense is that good brains coming together definitely find solutions. So be part of best of the teams, teams that is energized and are positive. Be part of those teams rather than somebody who's very deliberative with respect to what can go wrong. So I think believe in your success, and I think success will come to you.
Thank you so much, Rajan sir, and everybody hearing out. If you have any questions, any queries, please tag sir, and he'll be happy to answer to all your queries. But then, thank you so much for joining us, sir, and for shelling out your valuable time for such a knowledgeable session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dugan, for having me. Best wishes to you as well, and happy to get tagged on questions, and I'll happy to respond.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
All the
so.
best. Take care.
Thank you so much,
Take
sir.
care. Bye.